The foundation of all these diseases of the heart is love of leadership, love of position, love of stature, and procrastination. That's what Ibn Ashur says. And they say that in the books of the Qawm, they say the last thing to leave the hearts of sincere people is love of leadership. Because it's that love of leadership that drives the person. If they have that kind of drive, they want to be outstrippers. So Allah put that in people for a reason, but you have to work on it and purify it. But it's there for a reason. If it wasn't there, there wouldn't be vying. وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسَ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ. Munafasa is part of the human nature. Sayyidina Umar always tried to outdo Abu Bakr. At a certain point, he finally gave up. When he brought half his wealth, Abu Bakr brought all his wealth. He said, I know I can't outdo him. Will you please clarify, the start should be purification of the heart. However, we should not start with tasawwuf. I thought tasawwuf's goal is purification of the heart. Well, what you're failing to see the intention and the science. What he said was that when you begin, the purpose of learning these things should be to purify your heart. But you have to learn your basic practices like tahara and salah. So you have to learn the fard ain. But your niyyah in learning it should be to get close to your Lord through purifying your heart. But the learning that science is after you've completed the Aqeedah so that's the difference. Maslow's hierarchy is largely fulfilled in our modern times. We have the basics taken care of for many in developed countries, especially in the West. Many have their social needs met too. Then what keeps people from achieving self-actualization? Well, I mean, I'm not totally convinced of that. I think true security doesn't really exist in the West. I think people have a lot of anxieties about safety and well-being. Food certainly is horrible. They've got really harmful food. A lot of the foods they're eating are poisonous. I mean, processed foods are just poison. They're just consuming poison. So I'm not totally convinced of that. I mean, look how people aren't fat because, they're necessarily eating a lot of food. They're fat because their bodies are being tricked. They're drinking 0-calorie drinks with artificial sweeteners and things like that. The body's confused. You can't take a sweetener. The taste buds send messages to the brain sends messages to the pancreas, and so you're putting things in there. People are really sick. So, but if you look at it outwardly, part of it is because modern people do not have a metaphysical foundation for their civilization. So they think self-actualization is being psychologically happy, like a house without a roof. I mean, that's their idea of being happy, that it's a psychological state. And so, they can have wealth, fame, everything, and they're miserable and commit suicide. And that happens to a lot of very wealthy and famous people. They're depressed all the time because they don't teach them, first of all, dunya. I mean, these poor people, look, they're all, getting breast implants and facelifts and Botox. I mean, it's sick. The civilization is very, very unhealthy because, first of all, they don't know that you're designed to grow old. God actually designed it because what He's letting you know is that this is not you. That face that you're seeing in the mirror changing over the years and growing old, that's not really you. You only think it's you, and as long as you think it's you, you're in bad shape. That you is not your personality. The persona, in Latin, persona means mask. Your personality is what you wear, but your soul, that's a whole different reality. And if you don't know that, then you'll think this thing that's falling apart is you. And so you'll do anything to keep it together. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't stay healthy and do exercise and do those things. But this pathetic fear of growing old is a sickness of the heart. It's a disease. And that's why if you don't have a metaphysical path, if you don't have a spiritual pursuit in your life, you're going to be sick. One of my teachers, George Vathalkos, he was a Greek homeopath that I studied with. I had the good fortune of studying with when I was with Dr. Hashim Sidat, who was a brilliant homeopath who now lives in Australia. Anybody, if you have any serious, I don't know if he's still practicing, but he was really an amazing physician. And if you don't believe me, ask Ahmadu from Liverpool, Silasu, Nigerian Ahmadu. What's his last name? Who knows Ahmadu? You know Ahmadu. What's his last name? Silasu? Yeah. I mean, they wanted to have an operation and everything on one of his relatives, and Dr. Sidat, mashallah, treated her, and alhamdulillah, he was a brilliant physician. But George Vathalkos said that atheism is actually a mental illness. He considered it like a psychiatric disease. That if you didn't believe in God, he said, you were diseased. It's interesting that, in the 1970s, homosexuality was diagnosed as an illness. And now they've removed it from the manual of diagnostic manual of diseases. But what's interesting is promiscuity is a sickness. If you're promiscuous, you're not well. But they don't have any way of treating these things, right? They don't have any way of treating them. And so if you don't have a spiritual path that puts these things where you understand what the shahwat are, what the ghadabiyya is, if you don't understand what the irascible soul is, concupiscible soul is, if you don't know these things, if you don't know how to regulate yourself, if you don't know what temperance is, if you don't know what the results of incontinence, moral incontinence is. So you can get to the White House and you can't control yourself when a young intern comes in. Which means you're not a free person. You're not hur, you're abd. The Arabs say, al-abdu hurrun ma tama', al-hurru abdun ma tama', wal-abdu hurrun ma qana'. That a slave is free if they're content, and a free man is a slave as long as he's covetous. So that aspect of true liberalism, of being truly a liberal person, a free person. If you're not free to be generous with your wealth, you're sick. It's called bukhl. Bukhl is a disease. In Arabic, the word for constipation and miserliness is the same. Imsak. Mumsik is a bakhil. So the person that's holding his feces in himself and poisoning himself, right? This is toxic. It's the same with the person that can't give his money away. And money is like manure. You spread it around and good things grow. You hoard it and it's a horrible stench. Comes out of it. So, but these are sicknesses. They don't, and that's why. How do they go on a journey if they don't even know that there's a journey or a destination? If they just think that this is it. Eat, drink, and be merry. This is it. Are you happy yet? How many drugs is it going to take to realize drugs aren't going to make you happy? How much money is it going to take to realize money's not going to make you happy? How many sexual encounters is it going to take until you realize that sexual encounters are not going to make you happy? Human beings are stupid. We're a stupid species. Except for the prophets and the awliya, we are literally stupid people. We're a stupid species. Animals are smarter than us. Animals, if they see something harmful, they run the other way. You'll never get an animal saying, to the other animal, hey, there's a fire over there, let's go check it out. They see fire and they run the other way. And that's why Allah says, inhum kal an'am. They're like animals. In the tafsir, Fakhruddin al-Razi says, because animals flee from harm. Humans actually are attracted by harmful things. And so if you're aql, if you're not a shahwani, if you're not ruled by your genitals or your stomach, if you're not ruled by your emotions, then you're aql. And the aql is the one that knows things are harm. Like my son, when one of my boys he was a little boy, and we were in a store, and this lady was smoking. She took a puff, and she blew it. And I don't know if he'd ever seen smoke, but he was just fascinated by this smoke coming out of her mouth. And she looked at him and she said, "Don't you ever do this." You know, this is the madness of human beings. It's just the madness of human beings. It's amazing that we harm ourselves and we harm others. We cause others a lot of pain and suffering, and it's all because nobody wants to do this work. It's hard work. It's just work, but it can be done. That's the point. This path is a real path. And it's all there. Just like you have a personal trainer. That's all the traditional murshid was. He was a personal trainer, right? Just so you do the curl up the right way so you don't pull your muscle. You know, he shows you how to do things the right way. That's all. It's like a personal trainer. Now everybody gets personal trainers for their bodies, and they don't think about personal trainers for their souls. It's amazing. But people need help. And we have everything's there, but you have to practice it. You know, everybody's up all night like till 1 a.m. Then you don't come for the fajr. You don't come and do the Quran, read the wird, things like that. You have to practice. It's just consistent practice. But if you want to just talk about it all the time and not do it ever, it's not going to have any benefit. And people say, "Oh, I've been praying for all these years and I don't feel it." Well, first of all, what are you trying to feel? And that's the first question. What is this thing that you're trying to feel? You want a spiritual experience? If that's why you're worshiping, then you're never going to get the spiritual experience. When it's for the sake of Allah, that's when the experiences will come. But that means emptying your heart of desires. So as long as you have these desires in your heart, you're not doing the work. But the prayer, we should be getting better at our prayer. We practice it every day, but practice makes permanent. It doesn't make perfect unless you're doing the right practice. But if you practice properly, you ask any musician, any athlete, if they learn how to practice properly, they get better as time goes on. And that's the same is true. You can stop thought. You can learn how to stop thought. You can learn how to, Dr. Yang knows how to do these things. The Asian tradition knows these things. These aren't limited to the Muslims. The Asian tradition knows how to meditate, to stop thought. You know, you can go into a hadra in prayer, but it takes practice. Sidi Ahmed Zarruq says, your presence in the prayer is determined by your presence in your wudu. Nobody does wudu properly anymore. They're just rushed through wudu. Wudu is a practice in and of itself. The Prophet did wudu even when he had wudu. He did wudu when he had wudu. He did wudu as a separate practice. But, you know, you have to go out, you have to sit down, you get a picture, do it properly. First time I saw Marabt al-Hajj do wudu, it changed my whole understanding of wudu. It just floored me. So I realized that it was much deeper than I had realized. He's got the secrets of wudu in there. Wudu has secrets. Anyway, all these practices they're real, and they do have effect on the heart, and they transform the heart.